This fish has to go. It's causing way too many issues. The other fish are getting bullied. It's hurting the other fish. Ultimately, the fish are just not doing well. If you see my last video on fish aggression, then you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. There's too much algae. Fish are being really mean to each other. We gotta get something done. You can see we have yellow cichlids, blue cichlids, more blue cichlids. However, these blue cichlids are being real mean to these guys, and that's a problem because these guys are my favorite. I want them to do well. Also, this rock looks ugly. Well, that rock looks nice. That rock looks really ugly. The background, you can't even see it anymore. It's just gray, brown algae. What are we gonna do with that? It needs to go. The first step to fixing this tank is draining the water and getting some of those rocks out and cleaned. Hose, check. New rock, check. Water draining, check. Water spilled all over the floor, check. And last but not least, towel for water draining on the floor. Check. The next step is to remove these blue fish and catch them and send them to the fish store. All right, I caught the fishies. I caught the blue and black ones. Now we're gonna take them to the store so they can find a new home. There they are, the fish in the tank. Got some credit for them. Mom is still holding the babies, so that's really cool. She didn't drop them in the process. Just got back from the fish store and they actually gave me like $60 worth of credit. So with that credit, I bought some Java Fern, which I think is gonna look really nice. The tank is still filling up and it's still cloudy, and I'm gonna start adding these plants because I think it'll complement the tank really nicely. Here's the tank, and you can see I created two like hills on either side of the tank and created a divot in the center. However, I have to fix that in the back, but I also scraped the algae off the back. I flipped the rocks over so that they're more white in appearance instead of just covered in algae. This side, I think I need to push it back a little bit more because if you take a step back, it looks a little odd with the corner of this tank. I mean, actually from here, it kind of looks good. Depends where you're standing, but I'm gonna put the plants in the tank and then we're gonna see how that looks. All right here I have the plants separated out. They were all in like these mats, and then I just cut them apart, and then now I have little groupings, and I'm just gonna push them into the little holes of the rock. The African cichlids might bite them a bit like they do with this plant. However, it's not too bad. These Java Fern tend to have stronger leaves and be a little tougher for the fish to bite on than some of the other plants. So hopefully they'll do pretty well with this fish. All right, the plants are in, so I got some around these rocks. As you can see, they're pretty nice. I think they bring a lot of green to the tank because the ones up here, you can't really see when you're standing up and they get covered in algae. And so now these are here, and hopefully like once they start growing the roots in, they'll be able to hold in really well and the fish can't pull them out. And then on this side, I have more just around dotted in. I just shoved them in the holes. So we'll see how well they do. And if you take a step back, I think that looks much better. And once the plants are in here for a bit, like the leaves will go towards the light instead of just being like an awkward direction. And then with the water flow, the plants should go left to right. All right, now I'm gonna show you guys when the tank is nice and clear and all the fish have been settled in for a bit. All right guys, before I show you what the final tank looks like and we go through it, we're gonna go ahead and read a positive comment from one of you guys on my videos, and we're gonna feed all the fish. So I have the phone right here, and I'm gonna read this from Hope saying, "Your channel is cute. That was when I posted a baby and mama fish pleco snacking together. If you guys want your comments to be shouted out, I would love to read them, so comment down below anything that you want. Talk about fish that you have in your tanks. If something you like about the video, just comment down below." All right, let's get to feeding all the fish, and then we can go into seeing the tank in its final appearance. All right, it's time to feed the fish. So we're gonna start off with the 90 over here. Got them some Bites. I fed them a little bit ago, but again, they eat quite a bit. Yellow discus still being stubborn. Hopefully this little loach does well with the medications in the tank and recovers soon. Just put the pellets in the tank. I also can feed these guys some. I'll go crazy for it. Bites I also think is why, or helps these guys maintain their like really nice orange. And then we're gonna feed the guy in timeout. I've yet to release him yet. We're gonna feed these guys next with Bites. They can eat. I don't know if you guys can hear them like hitting the top of the water, but it sounds really, really cool. They're like little piranhas. Then the plecos eat something else. All right, for the plecos and then the other fish, let us get some wafers. All right, plecos. All right, the eggs, I think are still in there. I have yet to check on them. The eggs, I think, are still doing well. Hard to see, but I gotta check on them and stay tuned for the next video, but let's feed them some pellets. I think 2 catfish snuck in on this side when the water change was happening. So that's not ideal because the catfish will likely eat the pleco eggs, so we don't want to have that. But I don't see them, so maybe they snuck back over to the other side. Now we're gonna feed these plecos. You guys can see that the babies are growing up, and then there's one of the dads. The only issue with this tank is there's a lot of snails and they cover up all the pleco pellets and food. So this was a lot of food I just put in, but my plan is after they eat, I'm gonna scoop out a lot of the snails once they make like a big pile, because there's just too many. All right, now we got the flakes for the guppies and platies. So let's put a little sprinkle in there, and then they can eat that. I try not to feed these guys too much, especially with all the snails and how small the tanks are. But giving the platies some food. This tank needs some cleaning. This tank's doing pretty well in terms of like how clear it is. And then these guppies, there's quite a bit in here, so we can give them more food. But they go crazy for it. I just did a water change yesterday, I believe, on this tank, on all these tanks. And then these guys, they're hiding in the back. Water is cloudy from the medications, but we'll also give them some food. So they'll come out later. Now for the final tank reveal and the 125 gallon. So you guys can see the water is nice and clear. The plants look great. The fish are looking amazing. The background, you can actually see it now. So there's not a bunch of algae just covering it all up. And you guys can see, which I really like, is this like shimmer effect. And the rest of the tank doesn't have it because there's not enough water movement at the top. The hills might be a little unnatural, a little too big, but the fish love to dig, especially this big male right here. So he'll move a lot, and the catfish will also dig it out. So over time, the sand and everything will look a lot more natural. You can see that the fish are out and about. They think I'm gonna feed them. And something I really like about this setup with the 2 piles is that the baby fish tend to stay around the piles and, you know, hover there while the bigger fish swim out and about. So it just looks really, really natural. And you guys can see the Java fern. Now the leaves are starting to turn towards the light. Some of the plants got loose, which was expected. I'll just have to shove those back in. I think there were the ones back there. So for the African cichlids, I actually put their food in one of these general cure containers. If I get my hand in here, get a nice scoop. Might be a little too much, but we'll maybe pour it all in. Open the little hatch. I move the feeding hatch. I move it every so often so the fish don't get used to it and to see where the food eventually ends up. But here it is, and now it's by the output, so hopefully it pushes it across the tank. I think last time I moved it because it just dropped there, but now all the fish are getting the food. And now the Damasceni that I had before, the black and blue guys, the reason that I really disliked them in this tank and why they were such a problem is because they were the ones beating up on the Madoka white lips. So like these fin nips are likely from them, because when they weren't like grown up, the Madokas would chase each other and pick on each other, but not as much as like really biting the fins. And some of them have like scales really damaged, like this guy, like you can just see he's kind of beat up on the side and not really looking too well. But now they're not in there, and hopefully they'll just heal up and then everybody will be happy. And I really like the scape of this tank because, or I really like the stocking of this tank because there's a lot of little yellow guys, all the babies, and then they stay relatively small. Like the dad in the corner is as big as the yellow guys tend to get. And then the Madokas, which are the blue guys, they're gonna get about 9 inches, hopefully full grown. So they'll look really nice as being like fewer big fish for the blue ones, and then a lot of little yellow guys surrounding them. And the yellow guys are doing really well because I've kind of made it that there's like one big male, the dominant male, and then a lot of females. So a lot of babies, but also the catfish help to keep the population in control. And then as more males come out, we'll just sell them off to the fish store so that the tank doesn't get too crazy overstocked. But you guys can see the catfish coming out. Wow, look at all of them. I love being able to see them and them feeling comfortable because they just hide a lot, because there's two types of catfish in here, Synodontis petricola and these guys, the multipunctatus. And I've been trying to count them because of the storm. I think I lost one, but I'm not sure of which species. And you guys can see like this cave that they're kind of making. Like I made that, but then the sand is getting kicked out of it so they can go inside. I love how like they keep going in and out of this cave like it's a little doorway. Like look, they just go in and then they go back out. We'll see. The other ones, see, like they all came out right there, and then they all like to hide behind there because it's the darkest spot, but I really like that this is like becoming the little catfish cave. Over here I think there's like some spots that they can hide in, like this hole and then underneath that rock. So we'll see like how they dig around the rocks, especially in this setup. I know one of the catfish loves to go in the shells, and I've added more shells as well. And then we'll see how well the plants do. If you guys want to see how I keep hundreds of fish in my fish room, make sure to subscribe and like down below. That video is coming out next, so make sure to do it right now.